Okay, welcome back again. My name is Sarah and welcome to How Many Paintings Can I Create in the January 31 Day Challenge. So it's a challenge where you paint every single day, ideally finishing a painting every day. But if you've been watching the videos, you know that quite hasn't happened for me this year during the challenge, but we've created a bunch of YouTube videos, which is also great. So if you count those, we're way above 31. Anyway, if you want to check out the hawk which was painted yesterday, you can go and see that video up above in the cards. Today, based on a popular request, because we know how much people can get fanatics about sloths.
And I immediately was overcome and I thought, there's a sloth near.
This painting had been requested so many times on every time I did a poll on Instagram or asked for animals in comments on any of my social media. And I am so happy that I got a really great reference photo from one of my close friends who's also a marine biologist. So huge shout out to Sam, and we are going to go and paint the sloth. So as I start with all of my videos, I am blocking in that fur. We are using very nice drawn out brush strokes to try and really capture the wispy feeling of the fur. So I'm using the number 10 filbert brush. And also in this video, we're going to be rotating quite frequently between real-time footage and time-lapse footage, as that has been popularly requested amongst all my videos. So I'm able to do it for the last 3 now that I have a bit more time to go through and edit it. So yeah, we're getting in the branch and I'm trying to make sure that the brown of the branch looks a lot more in a cooler tone than the brown of the sloth. So this kind of helps it stand out a little bit. Now we're gonna zoom in, and this is the real-time footage of how I create the bark texture. So really just trying to capture the shadows in the different cracks and layering that highlights on top of it. This is a very quick and dirty way to paint wood really quick. And now we're going back with the kind of darker color again and adding some more cracks in it. And that was pretty it. We did that branch really simply. I really enjoyed doing the leaves for this as well. I thought about adding more leaves framing the painting from the top, but because it's the 31-day challenge and we're trying to keep the backgrounds very simple, we opted out for this one so we could really focus on practicing the texture of the sloth and making sure we got the fur was the main focus of the painting. So I wanted to make sure when we captured the fur that we got the right coloration in it. So I really wanted to make sure that we really highlighted the green tones and the underlying yellows of the fur. And now we get to do the sloth's face. They have really gorgeous eyes that are kind of almost hidden in the brown patch surrounding them. And of course, the eye sparkle is a favorite. And this sloth also had a really interesting kind of gleam of the sky off of the side of its nose. And I kept it in the painting. I debated it a little bit and I kind of go back and forth with choosing the right coloration of it so that it doesn't look strange on the sloth's face. But we kind of settled for this nice purple tone. And now is the part where we're going to be adding a lot more of the detail. So now that we're finished kind of blocking in the basic color tones that we're going for in our underpainting. And remember, when we're doing an underpainting, we're always starting a lot darker than the colors that we're going to be choosing in the final product. So now we get to go in and we're adding, it's not white, it's a pretty big off-white color. It's just like a few shades lighter than the cream of the undertone of the painting. But it looks white, and we're able to add in all the finer details with the fur lines here. And the main advice that I can give when you are painting fur is to really pay attention for the direction of fur and continuously look at your reference image to keep track of what direction your fur is going and how long your fur is. And at this stage, I'm not even using a liner brush for these details. I'm just using a typical rounded brush with a decent edge on it. And I prefer this because they hold a lot more paint and you can do a lot more lines. It just kind of saves time because any paintbrush isn't touching the canvas and you have to go back and forth between your palette and the canvas. All of that time kind of really does add up. And you'll also notice that for this part, I've entirely flipped the canvas upside down, as well as I flipped my reference image. This was strategic because I'm right-handed and it's easier for me to paint fur starting from where it's coming out of the body and then ending it to the right so we can get that nice blended edge. So I flipped the canvas just so I could kind of paint the fur in an easier direction based on my hand orientation. So I paint a lot of this painting upside down / right side up for the sloth, depending on which way you look at it. And I really jumped around. I kind of jumped leg to leg. I was painting its head for a bit, and then I moved away from the head to try and get the body. I was really kind of indecisive about where I was going to go with this painting. And I'm just trying to kind of chip away at progress everywhere and build up those layers in different areas over time. So with fur, it's all about patience. And we're giving you some real-time footage of how quickly we're making all of these strokes and the progress. So you can see I'm continuously going in and adding lines in a light cream color, and then I'm layering transparent washes of brown over top of these lines to try and get different hues and really mix up the variation of color. I'm also using a lot of green, brown undertones in these sloth to really highlight the different colors in their fur. So yeah, so now we're jumping around back up to the main body of the sloth and just kind of going everywhere. I'm not really sure what I was thinking at this point in the painting, but essentially we are just trying to mix a color of brown on our palette, and then I use that brown until it runs out on my paintbrush, and then I'm mixing a new color of brown. So the whole idea here is that you want to kind of have natural variation in your color, and you want it to kind of be seamless across the whole animal. So what I'm doing, instead of mixing a large portion of one color, is I'm trying to keep the color variation in the sloth as one of the main draws to this animal, and something that makes the brown fur in it a lot more interesting. So I'm continuously mixing new colors, doing new washes in all of these brown, golden, yellow tones. And we're just slowly building up that texture over and over and over. So you always want to make sure you're starting dark and saving your highlights, and then kind of putting them in at the end as a really final wow feature. So now you're kind of seeing the fur on the back. Looks like it's coming together quite quickly here. I'll slow it down a little bit. Basically, it's a fine balance of having your paintbrush loaded enough that you don't have to go back all the time, but not too loaded that you get too dark of strokes. So you can see here we have a lot of paint on the paintbrush, but it's not coming out in a glob. It's kind of still able to be thin and flexible. And sometimes when I'm aiming to make a stroke on the paintbrush, nothing happens because I'm hitting the paintbrush so softly that sometimes it misses. So it's kind of this just continuous texture and movement on your hand that's creating these very delicate fine lines in a brush stroke. This movement is also the reason why I can only paint so much fur in a day. So typically outside of the challenge, I really limit myself to about 4 hours of painting fur within a day, and I can pretty much maintain that pattern indefinitely. If I push it and do like a 7-8 hour day of fur, then I'll try and paint something else for the next few days that's a little bit lighter. Yeah, make sure your hand's feeling okay when you're doing this. There's lots of different ways to hold brushes and things that are more easier on your hand. My method's not perfect by any means. I'm a very much self-taught artist, so if there's any professionals out here and they're like, oh, you should be holding your paintbrush like this instead, feel free to comment it below, because that's an area that I really don't know that much about. But yeah, so it's kind of fun seeing all these final little highlights come into play here, and trying to get the fur on the two arms to kind of match. So we're gonna slow it down one more time here so you can kind of see the motion again. Now I'm using a bit of a darker color of the brown and just trying to separate some of the chunks of fur that I think are a little too dense, trying to create that space, the negative space between strands, just to add a bit more depth to the fur in a few different areas. The claws have such a lovely pink-purple color to them that I thought that they were really fun to paint, and it kind of draws in that blue-purple tone on the side of its face reflection from the sky as well. And I think that there's just so many fun colors contrasting with the green of the leaves and the claws and area of its face that it really kind of draws a lot of attention to that part of the painting, which I think is pretty fun. Right, and now moving on, the only areas really left in the painting are the second leg here, and then it's the really light fur kind of on the patch of its belly there. So now we're gonna get in and tackle this, And I kind of play with which direction to hang the canvas. So now we're back upside down again. You can almost see a little bit of a part in the fur down its leg. That was really interesting to really kind of capture the movement of the sloth being upside down and which direction gravity versus how the fur is growing on the animal. Because all the fur does really kind of go in little bursts in a bunch of different directions. So it's really kind of fun to capture that. And now we're into painting the softer hair on the belly. It's pretty fun because there's actually a shadow from the branch that is kind of reflecting on the bottom part of its stomach. So we really wanted to make sure that we kind of captured that and it didn't look too strange. And now we're flipping it back upside right. So the sloth's upside down. And you can kind of see from a more zoomed out angle what the whole painting of the fur kind of looks like, and how we have a cooler fur up at the top and kind of a warmer toned fur towards the bottom of the animal to really kind of aid in that perspective that it's hanging above us so that the legs are further away and the body of the animal is closer to us. So this was kind of intentional. Maybe you'd be hung kind of high in somebody's house so that they'd be able to like look up at the sloth. I think that would be really cool, especially if somebody had a lot of plants. That's kind of what we had in mind. Thank you as always so much for watching the video all the way until the end. I'm so glad you're still here, and I hope that you had some value in seeing how I created a sloth painting. We are on track so far, so 2 days left in January, 2 paintings left. Find out what we're going to be creating tomorrow in the next video. It has been voted on all day today, and I believe marsupials are winning. So we will pick a species of marsupials and you'll get to see what it is. And it is almost February, which is a whole new chapter for my business. So I have a lot of commissions already booked in, fully booked with commissions. So I didn't really plan for as many of the January challenge paintings to sell as quick as they did. So I thought I'd have more time to photograph everything, edit the photos while you have the original there so you can cross-reference the prints from it and check everything. You have to varnish the painting. Varnish has to have so many days to dry. Then you have to create boxes and wrap everything. And I always write notes to my clients and certificates of authenticity. It's a process to get a painting, even once it's painted, into the hands of the collector. That whole process takes a lot of time. It takes about 5 hours each painting, and we're just gonna try and squeeze that in when we can. So video editing is gonna take a bit of a back burner while all of that kind of process happens. But the commissions in February, I am planning on filming in the same format with the time lapse. And if you want to see more specific videos on my channel, let me know what your ideas are below and I'll see what I can create for you. That was a bit of a long outro to our sloth, but we are going to go and paint the last 2 paintings in our January series for now. And you can check out the playlist up above if you want to watch all the rest. Thanks for watching, guys.